Hurry up, Greg, you always take ages.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a cartoonist. Dundee, city of discovery, marmalade, and desperate Dan. I grew up here, and my mum worked at DC Thompson's, so I never missed the Beano and the dandy. I guess coming from a town with such a cartooning tradition, it was inevitable I would become one. I think it's actually law there now. You have to draw at least one cartoon a year, or you end up in Bass Street jail. This is the actual drawer I used to sleep in. We were quite poor, of course, and so I didn't have the entire drawer to myself. I had to share it with my brothers. I just had the teaspoon section. I trained as a painter here at Duncan of Jordanson College of Art. Everything I know about drinking and bad behaviour I learned here, and some of what I know about art too. I started getting cartoons published in the early 1990s, but these were like music papers as opposed to newspapers, because at the time I was a musician. As you can see, the style of these cartoons was pretty much similar to the kind of thing that I do now, except that in those days we didn't actually have computers. I actually did these drawings based on photographs and then cut and pasted them into, you know, a page like this. People say, oh yeah, he just photoshops these things together. It's like it's an automated kind of thing. Well, you know, obviously had an idea in my head about how I just wanted these cartoons to look, because this was like long before Photoshop was even invented. And you know, you can imagine how pleased I was when Bill Gates showed up.
How can I describe Greg? He's a cartoonist, but he's so untypical of a cartoonist in so many ways, because as he himself boasts about, he doesn't actually draw anything. The other thing, of course, is the boasting, because cartoonists by nature are a shy and retiring sort. We hide behind our drawing boards, and we occasionally venture into Twitter land, but we don't like to get out and about and meet people and you know, blow our own trumpet. That's not really something you could say about Greg. He's not only blowing his own trumpet, but he's got so much wind he's blowing other people's trumpets as well.
Mum said recently that I was a very unusual child. She didn't mean when I was growing up, she meant now. I guess I do spend quite a lot of time with this guy. Ventriloquist dolls kind of feature in the cartoons from time to time. I think it's because I was kind of fascinated with them when I was a kid. In fact, it was probably my first experience of little bits of comic dialogue was so that I could do a little comic turn with Reggie here. But you know, otherwise I'm, you know, reasonably normal for a Dundonian, like.
Suppose just the idea that you've got the leader of the Labour Party actually taking advice from the dummy instead of the other way around is a piece of genius, because, you know, again, there are layers to what Greg does. This is going to sound really weird, but there are certain old masters. Every now and then they would put a self-portrait in there. So you'd be looking at a Michelangelo and you'll know that that guy third from the left, that's Michelangelo. They're looking out at you, and it's a kind of sneaky wee, hey look, there's me, this is the thing that I did. Corky the ventriloquist dummy is apparently Greg. You know, who knows, maybe in years to come there will be academic courses giving us an in-depth analysis of the work of Greg Moodie.
One of the things that we saw during the referendum was all this creative energy coming out of nowhere, with new people doing posters, photography, music, art, cartoons, and Greg's really at the heart of that creative moment really that we're seeing, with all this new energy bubbling up, are people provoked and excited by the challenges ahead, and kind of infused with the energy of the whole thing.
During the referendum period, there was just so much material, I could hardly keep up. It was, you know, even though we didn't get the result that we wanted, and we were all, you know, mega devastated at the time, but I think there was an expectation that was that. We'd all just get back in our box and eat our cereal. But we know that is now, that's not what happened at all. We're now massively energised. The Westminster parties are really just clearly have absolutely no idea what's going on here at all in Scotland, and I mean their Scottish branches are pretty clueless as well, as is the London-based media.
I think this kind of cultural movement is the opposite of the kind of staleness of the unionist position, which basically says UK okay, everything's fine. You know, so it's a kind of critical thinking. It's people really turned on to what's happening and alive to the moment, and that's just a massive contrast to the sort of slightly stale British culture that we've seen before.
Thanks to social media, now I think it's possible to have a completely different experience of the political discourse, and I, like a lot of people, you know, cling to my world of mostly pro-independence websites and news agencies, and figures within that, the Derek Batemans and the Reverend Stews and the News Shaft guys, and of course Greg is a major player in that as well.
We commissioned Greg to do a cartoon every week, every Friday for Bella for the last 6 months or so, and he's brought an amazing new energy to the site, and it's really popular. Every Friday you can see our traffic go up as people tune in to read his weekly cartoon.
So I do 2 cartoons a week just now, Friday at Bella Caledonia, and Sunday that appears on Monday's copy of the National.
Sunday Herald was the only newspaper to come out in favour of a yes vote during the independence referendum campaigns, and after the vote itself there was clearly a demand for a daily newspaper which took the same views, so we launched the National in November, and 2 titles are going from strength to strength really.
As soon as I found out that there was going to be a newspaper that was, you know, independence supporting, I just started pestering them. For the job. I kind of just said, you know, you're going to need a cartoonist. There's no point in looking anywhere beyond me.
Yeah, well, I'd seen Greg's work online, and I'd seen him on Twitter, and he's kept bombarding us with messages telling us, you know, how perfect he would be for the National, and then he actually mocked up a National page with one of his cartoons on it, and actually I had to admit it looked pretty good.
Online, everybody just kind of took up this cause and joined in with this total harassment campaign. It's a form of seduction, really. But I think after a while, the editor, I just wore him down. I think he was just worn out. I think it was easier to give me the job than to suffer this continual harassment.
I think Greg's work is something that other newspapers don't really have. It's, I think, unique is putting it mildly. And given that he'd spent so much time stalking us, it seemed only fair to give him the opportunity to do some work for us. So he did a cartoon, it went down really well, and the relationships continued, and we now carry it every week, which is great. We carry it every Monday. I think that gives him some problems because it ruins his weekend, but that's just an added bonus for us, really. Greg, I think when he sets his mind to something, he's pretty determined to make it happen. And since it's happened, I think he's become a very popular feature of the newspaper. In fact, so popular that when the last budget was announced, we asked him to do the front page, which I think he was excited about, I think, and it was a great front page. It had George Osborne in a hood and holding the red case up, and various other Westminster personalities behind him, and Gordon Brown as Godzilla in the background. And it went down really well online. We got a lot of positive feedback about it. I think there was an article in the Huffington Post about it, and they were saying that I don't think they really understood the imagery. I'm not sure I understood all the imagery myself. They were particularly, they said that it showed all the people from Westminster as looking particularly evil, which I think was quite true. Certainly, George Osborne didn't look particularly benign in it. I think that's fair to say. But then again, George Osborne isn't a particularly benign figure, so I guess you've got to call it as you see it. I mean, I think cartoonists can sum up a situation using visual elements that sometimes are more powerful, very often are more powerful than words, and I think Greg certainly does that. I mean, he uses words as well as cartoons. Most cartoonists that you see in newspapers will just be one frame, but Greg does a whole strip, so there's a lot of words involved as well, and they do go off somewhere into some flight of fantasy.
I know for a lot of people, when they think of a political person, they'll probably, in their minds, immediately have a vision of how Greg represents them.
Greg is just every day sharp as anything, every time he produces for us. So I think it's the thing that politicians hate the most, is people just taking the piss out of them and being objects of ridicule.
You know, you never really, when you start in one of Greg's cartoons, you're never really sure where it's going to end up, but it's usually somewhere that's interesting and humorous. It certainly makes me laugh.
So I'm putting together a second book of cartoons. It includes all of the cartoons that I've done for Bella and for the National. It has pretty much all your favourites, you know, Drunk David Cameron, Giddy Osborne, Robot Jim Murphy, there's Godzilla in the background, there's my little cat, poor wee thing, and basically it's a riot.